Cheers, successful 2023.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'll talk about whatever. My life's all kinds of crazy.
Hit the bell!
Because you have an Android.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Just suck.
Just subscribe already. So I seen that you were on a couple podcasts.
Yeah, I've been getting experience with that. Just definitely. Okay, that is rotate.
Yeah, you can move it however you want, and if you need to move it and tighten it or loosen it, whatever you want.
I think that's good right there.
Yeah, it'll go in and out, whatever.
Okay.
You guys, YouTube's telling me that 75% of you guys are not subscribed. That's absolutely insane because I upload almost every single day. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe with the bell so you guys never miss a video.
Cool. Yeah, no, I was on a couple podcasts recently. It's one of the things of public speaking is one of my weakest. It was one of my weakest things just because I'd never done it. You know, I'd done a lot of other things, but when it came to actually getting on, discussing things, public speaking was like a horrible class in school, everything like that. So I was like, okay, I need to start getting into this groove and doing it. And so I grew up doing a lot of theater and stuff. So I've done things where I'm up in front of people, but then as soon as it came to doing any kind of speeches for camera or whatever, that was where I suddenly struggled a lot. So yeah, I was like, okay, I need to start getting through podcasts.
What was it though? In it that what was it that got in your head? Because it's all mental, right?
Yeah.
It's all like a placebo day.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I started off, I did a lot of theater. I don't know if we're already recording or not, but...
Are we recording?
Okay, cool. We're good. We'll just keep going with it.
We're just going to roll with it.
Yeah, no, so I grew up doing a lot of theater, and so it was 2 or 3 shows every single year. So I'm used to being on stage, used to singing, dancing, all sorts of random stuff. But then as soon as it comes to actually full-blown just acting, so if it's a straight play, there's no music, no nothing, my brain, I can only compute the next sentence, and then the next sentence will trigger in, and so it's like an anxiety fest where I don't know what I'm gonna say next because I'm like, okay, I know I've practiced this like crazy, but my brain cannot think about what this scene does. It's just triggering on to the next piece. So yeah, I think that's more the piece that did bring anxiety initially was just that I never knew what I was gonna say next because my brain pretty much just cuts off to almost like short-term fight or flight mode.
Sure.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense to me. I feel like I'm similar to that, but mine's like a combination of one or two things. So I never felt like growing up I had any problem talking to a crowd. I could get up in front of anyone and talk. It didn't bother me at all. It wasn't until I took a public speaking class where they started nitpicking the things that you do wrong. And they point it out. Everybody's staring at you the whole time, and they're watching you do something dumb with your hands or how you're just standing there stiff. And then I started realizing I am doing some of those things wrong. And then all of a sudden it messed me up subconsciously. Yeah. So it wasn't even, I never had a problem until I was in college. And then it was because of that class, whenever they started pointing out why people have problems with it, that all of a sudden now I had a problem with it.
That's
and then,
funny.
Yeah. And then I think it was so it was that where it was just in my head, I was just thinking about something dumb I was doing. And then it was also kind of very similar to what you were saying. It was just I'm trying to think of the next thing I'm going to say. And instead of just being relaxed and just letting it flow, I was tripping over because I was trying to come up with my next sentence while I was saying my sentence.
Yep.
So my brain was just mixing the words and sentences together.
Yep.
And it come out as a stutter or something like that, just something like a slur in a word.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to work on all that stuff. I've been doing a bunch of research. I took professional singing lessons for 4 or 5 years. And then with her, she also does public speaking and stuff. So she helped me a little bit with some of the pieces.
Who's this?
This is Sheila Dugan up in St. Louis. So I would go from Raleigh. It was a 2-hour drive I guess it was every other week primarily. But for about 4 years or so, I'd just go up there and take singing lessons. And then she would do little pieces hey, you're using your hands weird here. Hey, you're doing your face looks weird while you sing. Stop that. That kind of stuff. But yeah, no, she's really, really good. She's helped multiple people who've been on Broadway, all sorts of stuff. So she's absolutely awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How'd you find her?
So I grew up doing theater like crazy. And then the family who ran the theater company, they had their daughter going up to see her because they were looking around for someone who was actually high grade professional. And St. Louis was the closest place that we could find someone who actually had experience putting people on Broadway, that kind of stuff, rather than just local mom who's trying to make some extra money on the side or something.
Someone that's good at it, like a professional at it.
Yeah. And so with her, she's been doing it for the past 45 years or whatever. And yeah, she definitely knows what she's doing.
So was that something you developed, or was that something that maybe your parents have. Well, hold on. Before we get into that,
but
I just want to
my acting career that is non-existent.
Well, I love hearing about it, and I think it all kind of plays into your life and who you are from what I've gathered of the short amount we've met.
Yeah.
And so today on the podcast, you guys, if you guys are listening, I just don't want to get too far into it before they're like, who is this that's on there? So Drew McCluskey, we went to a collective. Collective is a young professional group that's over in Rollin, Missouri. And then some of the guys from the group had basically reached out and said, hey, we want to have like a gentleman's night.
Yep.
And there was a place called Leatherwood over in St. James, and it's a cigar lounge. You can have your own drinks. So they put on a whole event. And we just met there, literally just met there. And they kind of, James Lewis, he's a life coach, and he did like a whole, he'd put me on the spot.
Yep.
And I volunteered myself, and I actually enjoyed it. I actually liked it. But yeah, we kind of just went there, and everybody kind of got to know each other, and it was like it was a networking connection thing, and we talked after it, and you're like, what do I got to do to, or you said, what's the requirement to come on your podcast?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there is no requirement.
Yeah.
There is no requirement. I just love having anybody on the podcast, especially if we have something in connection. Like there's something similar. And the fact that we were both at this collective event shows that we were both like looking, right? We're both searching for maybe it's just some new people in our lives to help us better ourselves in the direction we want to go. And when were we talking about it? Oh, I think that I think you came up to get some bourbon and you just introduced yourself and we were talking. I don't even know how or why I got brought up, but we started talking about books. And you told me you read like a ton of books, right?
Yeah.
Like books are your thing.
Yeah. No, and it was not growing up, but yeah, no, I think it was one of those things of I read I don't remember if it was a quote or just someone told me it, but they said, if you want a mentor and you want, some of the best mentors in the world, go read their book because they've already taken all their years of knowledge and condensed it down to like a 7-hour long book that you can just read. And so it's like you get to have coffee, with Robert Kiyosaki and hear all of his primary thoughts on like the basics of financial wealth and stuff like that. And so for me, because I think initially had been looking for mentors and stuff like that, that was just a big thing when I was younger. But then, someone mentioned that and I was like, well, okay, I'm not on Hawaii or wherever, Robert Kiyosaki lives. So I'm going to read his book and then I'll read his next book and his next book. And so then at that point it's like, well, shoot, now I've had whatever, there's like 21 hours worth of, coffee with Robert Kiyosaki, but it's specifically, he prepared a talk for me specifically.
Yeah.
So
and it only costs you $25 too.
Yeah. And no, compared to like masterminds that are like $10,000 to get a conversation with them.
Yes.
Yeah. So that, I think, that's kind of what made me realize, oh shoot, I need to get into books more. And then, even with that, there's like a lot of amazing mentors that are dead now, but they wrote, some great books. I don't know if Napoleon Hill's dead. I would assume he's dead by now.
I would assume too.
Yeah, I have no idea when.
I don't know. Is he? You should Google that, Ariel. Should look that one up.
I feel like I'm pretty positive that's like a 100-year-old book or something. It sure is written like it is. Napoleon Hill. I think he wrote Think and Grow Rich. I think
so.
Yeah,
I think so. I'm trying to look at my books right now and see if I got it. So this is my small, right behind you is my small
his picture's black and white. He's got to be dead.
Yeah, there's no colored picture.
Yeah,
1970.
He died in 1970. Yeah, he long dead. Okay, yeah. Well, so I'm never gonna have a conversation with Napoleon Hill. So,
Think and Grow Rich is a huge book, though.
Yeah, it's kind of like the War and Peace or something like that of business finance books. It was.
So would you? That's okay. So I want to ask you this. This is something we talked about, and I love the fact that you've read. How many books do you think you read when it comes to self-help / financial help books? How many do you think? Just a rough estimate.
I'm probably at about 180.
Oh,
that right now.
Cow,
that's
dude.
about the last 3 years.
That is awesome.
Thanks.
I love it, and I am envious of that. Like that is something I want to be, because when you said how you went to look for a mentor, and it's it's basically all their mentoring condensed into a book. I never like whenever I went to read the book, it was never like I need a mentor. That's why I'm reading the book. It was just I need knowledge, and I was seeking knowledge. And when I found Rich Dad Poor Dad, I just searched. I was like searching, just like financial self-help books. I was just like trying to Google keywords because I never even realized these books existed. I never realized like this was such a massive thing. And I knew there were self-help books out there. I remember in college, I had some classes where you had to read a book, write a paper on it.
Yep.
And everybody else was reading history books, or they were reading like fantasy books or something else. And I never clicked with any of them. I had such a hard time as a young kid reading because none of them interested me.
Yep.
And I remember accidentally grabbing a self-help book and reading it and loving it. And it had nothing to do with finances at all. I can't remember what it was even now, but I remember really being like, oh, because I'm a realist. Like I just like realistic things. I don't really get into the fantasy crap.
Yep.
It's just me. And it was years later when I was like, I need to find a book. And, so I'm trying to Google it. And then Rich Dad, Poor Dad came up. Because if I'm going to do something, just like you said with your instructor from St. Louis, that lady, I want to find the best.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to, because there's a lot of people that give you advice. And I just started realizing, like, I just need to go to the person that has the best book. I want 5-star rating, all the reviews, all good reviews.
Yep.
And then Rich Dad Poor Dad came up. I bought it. It was my first financial help book, financial self-help book, or whatever you want to call it. Bought it, loved it. I bought multiple copies of it. I bought the audiobook. I was listening to it.
Start telling all your friends, you got to read this. Like,
it's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And nobody cared about it. And it took me a while to actually realize that unless you want to grow and unless you're into it, nobody else cares.
Yep.
And I pushed a lot of friends away because of it. But I'm interested to know, because you read so many books, what would be your top? Is top 3 too hard? Could you do top 5?
I could do like top 3 or top 5, something like that. Probably, like top 1, I have no idea. I'm trying to think. I'd say, so I absolutely love devouring real estate books. So like real estate, business, and mindset are my primary 3 that I try to read through. And then there's, other ones that are, I guess, more self-help, personal, growth, kind of like the What to Say When You Talk to Yourself is like a book where it's all about, affirmations, all those kind of different
things.
I
just had someone on podcast yesterday recommend that book.
Okay, yeah. No,
I
it's
haven't
good.
screenshot it, and I'm like, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah. No, that's one that I wish like that was, and maybe it is required reading for certain schools, but I wish that was just something that like every, depressed 14-year-old had to read, because that's such a crucial book as to like what you say does directly affect your psychology and everything.
She has like a 13-year-old girl. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
she has a 13-year-old girl, and that's how the conversation got brought up. We were just talking about books and stuff too. She's a third-generation entrepreneur, and she was talking about how her daughter is in private school, but she has a lot of friends that are in public school, and she was hanging around some girls that were she was really good from when she was in public school. She was still hanging around them, and they were saying something about themselves that was like downing themselves.
Yep.
And she's like, no, we don't talk like that. We don't talk about ourselves like that in our household. Like that, you don't say that.
Yeah.
And then that's how I kind of got brought over into that conversation about that was the book that really helped change her mindset. And because I do think that's a problem nowadays, right? Like even when I was younger, I had a really bad self-esteem because of things people said about me, or maybe things that I had done that I just wasn't confident on, and I was just young and confused.
Yep.
And I agree. Like those things, I think more books like that need to be pushed in school.
Yeah.
To give you to help kids out, because a lot of kids have just jacked up self-esteems.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times it starts not, from themselves. It starts with their parents or some other, bad influence, and then it seeps into their own stuff of, I'm an idiot, blah, 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 whatever it is.
Especially if you come how much of the world is rural, poor communities?
Yeah.
More than people want to admit. A lot of people want to act like they're middle class, but they're not. A lot of these people are not middle class. They're just trying to act middle class, but it's just like, no, we're poor. People don't like to say it, but it like...
Well, I think middle class is now like, isn't it? You have to be right around like $130,000, $140,000 a year income. And that's like...
I bet that's what it is. Ariel, you should pull that up.
Yeah, that's like... Inflation's changed that number so much, because people now think that like if you're making $100,000, you're like a doctor, and it's like, nah.
No,
you're actually not doing. I mean, you're doing fine, especially like for Midwest. We're living out here. Yeah, you're doing fine, but that actually really doesn't put you like in the comfortable range that people think it does.
Right, and that's a big thing where I'm trying to, like when I talk about money and talk about what I want to do with my life right now. It's such a hard thing because I have to be very careful because of the way people perceive money and income. And like I'm talking about how I express highly that I want to own a corporation.
Yep.
And a lot of people think it's just money. Like, oh, you just want to be rich. You just want to have a yacht. You want to have
Mm-hmm.
Lamborghinis. And I'm like, no, it's nothing like that. I'm like, I just don't. Dude, I spent all weekend long and all the beginning of this week cleaning out tampons out of my bathrooms at my gym. Like running a snake through a drain. I had another guy, and there's freaking crap water coming off of it because the plumber I hired said it couldn't be done and that we need to cut the concrete out. And I'm like, no, dude, we just got to get the tampon out.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that the rest of my life. And I also don't want to have to struggle buying great value everything. And I don't want to have to like go on vacation and buy the cheapest stuff. And I'm just trying to get away from that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that lifestyle, I'm going to live that lifestyle as long as I'm like, even my small business just doesn't have enough money.
Yeah.
And it's nobody else's problem to handle except for mine. And I love my small business. I love all the people that come to my small business. But the small business just isn't going to help me out enough. So that's why I'm like, I have to be very careful because not everybody understands it, sees it the same way I see it.
Yeah.
But okay, so we got it pulled up.
So it looks like it's 52,000 to 156, and that was like I don't even know. It was some person was mentioning it last week that I saw the 140,000 figure or somewhere around there.
But how many people aren't even making $52,000 a year?
A lot, like most all the people I know. like in terms of like in Raleigh and stuff. There's
I'm
what's
sure
there's a couple people that I know that are making over that, but a lot of people are making right around that 36,000 a year, maybe 40.
Yep. So 52,000 divided by 54, right? 52 weeks or 54 weeks in a year?
Oh, 52 weeks. Yeah.
52 weeks.
Yeah, unless we're in an extreme leap year or something.
So that's $1,000 a week divided by 40 hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you're making that's $25 an hour.
And a lot of people I know are making 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And they consider that relatively good for around here. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's we're not trying this. See that I'm already like trying to defend myself. Like, I don't want you guys that are listening to think that hey, that's not good money. Like it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. If you're going to work, you're working hard, and you're making $20 an hour.
Yep.
Good for you. It's great. I don't even know how we were talking about the whole subject of.
No, I mean I think it came from the like self-help and jumped over, but I think what you're talking about is. And you're talking about like the corporation idea and everything with that. But I think a big piece that I've seen and kind of why I got into wealth building initially was mine, like you were kind of saying, it kind of all comes down to stress. Like you don't want the stress of having to go do blah, blah, blah. You know, you'd rather be able to just pay a plumber and say, no, just do it the way I'm saying. And then if it doesn't work, sure, you can try something else. But like, you know, just being able to kind of have more of that control. To me, it's like you have two sides because you can, you know, if you make, let's say it's $30,000 a year, but you only spend $20,000 a year, well, then you're doing pretty okay. You're, saving $10,000, or you can use that $10,000 as just your fun money and you can have a good life, whatever, it's fine. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. They make $30,000 a year and they spend $29,000 a year. Like that's more so where it is. And now actually you are stressed all the time because anytime that a $500 problem comes up, you have to see if there's a way that you can do it for cheaper and spend more time on it or, spend a Saturday. And so it's like money virtually can never be the solution. It always has to be your time and stress. And that's where I think like it's like, okay, well, I don't want that. Like I like we were talking about a little bit earlier, like I'd like to mow, but only when I want to. I want to be able to just have, someone else is mowing, but if I want to go out there and, make a little garden bed or something like that, I can do that. But I don't want it that every single problem that comes up in my life, I can't solve without using my own time and effort. And,
I don't always want to have to be the doer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when my plumber came out, he was calling me, and I appreciate that he does this. And he's like, Ryan, I know that you're a very hands-on guy. You like to do it yourself. I'm like, no, I don't always want to. I
can.
I had to because I was young and I was broke, but I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah, and like it was a big thing for me in life. Just whenever I was able to pay someone to cut my grass.
Yep.
Like that was a big, and I was like, do I do this? I'm like, yeah, you need to do this because you got to get away from that time. That's a big portion of it. It's not that I'm lazy.
Yeah.
I'm still working. I'm still doing stuff, but I just I want my problems to be like, I just don't want it to be small problems. I don't want to have to worry about unclogging the toilet. I want to have to like something bigger in the business.
We'll be like worrying about partnerships or, potential brand deals, marketing campaigns, whatever, like things that are actually going to make you more money. And that was something, me and my older brother, we would talk a lot about of, what's your time per hour worth? And if you're not doing that thing, will you be working? And if that's the case, figure out when it clips off. Because if like I have someone come and they mow my lawn, and it takes them 15 minutes because they're out there with their fast machine and they already are just in the cycle of things. For me, I've got to go out, get my lawnmower, make sure everything's hooked up, blah, 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 blah. And it's taking me usually about like an hour at least. So it's like a full hour or it's 15 minutes for them. In that hour, I paid them, the person I had, it was $15 per cut because it only took them 15 minutes. And so I was like, well, okay, $15. I would like to think what I'm doing is going to make me more money than $15 an hour. So if while they're doing that, because it's usually during the middle of the day, I'm working on something else and it's going to make me $20 an hour, well, then now it's stupid for me to be mowing my own lawn because also it makes me shift gears. So now I'm having to stop, have to go change clothes. And like the whole, my mindset and everything, if I was in a grind at all, it's gone. I'm going to go mow. I have to go then take a shower and then now come back. And I've kind of lost my groove there. So
Yeah, you lose the momentum.
yeah. And that's, I think like if you're, if every week you do, 50 different types of tasks in general, which is pretty often, I feel like, then you're not able to like really get into any deep state of work, which actually kind of goes into the whole deep work thing. Which actually I guess we can jump back to that, the top 5 books thing. I primarily like real estate mindset and business. I'd say for real estate wise, I really, really liked
I'm gonna write these down. Actually,
it's hard
wanna
because
miss
it always
this
depends
opportunity.
on if someone's at a beginner stage or if they're at a more advanced stage. But I would say just overall, one of the ones that I thought was the most beneficial for me was Investing in Real Estate with No and Low Money Down by Brandon Turner. And that one was like, I think that was the second real estate book I'd read. But the reason I liked it so much was it specifically, the whole book is just strategies on how to buy real estate the non-traditional way. And so everything is just learning how to think outside of the box. And that I think is crucial because I've a ton of people I talk to about real estate investing. They're always like, yeah, I've been looking into it, but I don't have 20% saved up yet. And I'm like, okay, that's like one of the easiest problems to solve. There's 500,000 strategies out there to get real estate without saving up 20% down. I'm not saying you should, but if that's been your block for the last 3 years is that you just don't have the 20% down payment, then you need to just do a little bit more research. And so I like that one because it got me into a more creative mind.
That's an easy excuse for people.
Yeah.
Like that. It's not the fact that they don't have 20% down. It's the fact that they are scared to do it. In my opinion, I believe that not all of them, but a lot of them are just scared to do it. And it is a lot of money.
Yep.
It is scary to get into for your first time, especially if you don't have someone to help you do it. And it's easier just to be like, well, I don't have the extra 20K.
Yep.
And then that's it. That's where it ends and it's done. You can just move on with your life because that's a good, solid excuse.
Yep.
But the ones that are hungry and you really want it, there's ways around it for sure.
I don't remember who I was talking with. It might have been my brother. I'm trying to think, but we started using this phrase that anytime that we used an excuse, the other person had to check the other person and say, is that the excuse you're comfortable with? Like in terms of, are you, like, because there are certain times if you're like, yeah, man, I broke my leg and I've got a baby on the way and blah, blah, blah. It's like, there may be an excuse where you're like, no, that is a good excuse and I am comfortable with that fact. But a lot of times if you ask, are you comfortable with that fact, that's going to be the reason that you don't get into real estate? Like, no. I'd rather it be that I was actually denied by the bank or, I offered on 3 houses and they all said no and there's no other houses that meet my criteria or something. I'd like it to be a little bit more difficult of a problem than literally, well, I didn't Google to see if there was any other options. That was my big problem and I'm comfortable that that's what made me fail. I like having that kind of check.
I think it's cool that you have some family members that are willing to do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like I have some sisters and my parents, great people, but they're not into it like I am. And I see them make a lot of excuses a lot of times. And I want, that's what I need in my life. I need people that check me because I've had to find a way to basically check myself and just eliminate. I basically eliminated all fear. And I've just taken fear out of everything. And even if there is fear, I've learned to overcome it. And so now I'm just like, find a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's in Rich Dad Poor Dad. He talks about, because I'm not good at remembering the exact details, but I remember it was something about don't tell yourself you can't do it because when you say you can't do it, that's where it ends.
Yep.
Tell yourself, how can I do it?
Yep.
Once I started to learn that, I would just sit and ponder on how can I make this happen?
Yeah.
How can I buy this? And that's how I started eliminating those excuses because I didn't give myself a chance to make the excuse. I just instantly I was just like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
How did I come up with the money for this? And it was crazy things. It was things in my head whenever I thought about how can I do this? It was crazy things. It was things that I thought would never happen. Like owning my gym.
Yep.
I never in a million years thought I was going to be able to own my own business.
Yep.
Especially not this big of a building or that big of a loan.
Yep.
I just didn't think it was in my realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
But I learned to change my mindset. And even the thought of the mindset like that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's easy to say that, but it's just not realistic. Like that's how my brain thought. But I'm like, screw it. I'm going to try it and just see what happens. And I just started doing it mentally. And it ended up working out. Like I did come up with a couple strategies, and they weren't perfect. They were a little, there's some flaws in them, but I came up with some strategies, and I went to the bank, and I was like, hey, I got this. This is what I want to do. This is where I'm at on it. Can we make it work?
Yeah.
And it actually turned out better than I thought, because my bank was, when I proposed them my ideas were a little on the stretched outside. Like I was stretching myself a little thin, but I was like, I'm willing to do it. Like I'll do it. And they came back to me and they're like, well, Ryan, we can do this. And like they were like, I didn't know you could do secondaries on properties. I didn't know a secondary was a thing. I knew equity. I knew you could use equity from properties, but I didn't know, like I thought I had just cash refinance
Yeah,
to
like
get
take
my
it
money
out
out.
or like HELOC or something. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when I went there, they're like, well, we'll just put a secondary on one of your properties and we can use the 20% equity that's in it and we'll use that as the rest of the down payment. I'm like, oh, I can do that? I'm like, I don't have to have a loan or nothing. And they're like, no, we'll just, like, it's just there. And if you ever foreclose on it, we get 20% of your property. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll do that. And so, like, sometimes you just got to try and you got to put some things in other people's hands too. Because one thing I learned is I don't know it all.
Yeah.
That was one of the best things I learned.
No,
I
well,
don't
and
know.
presenting the opportunity to the bank gave them the opportunity to give you a different thing that you didn't even consider. Like, the whole, how can I do it? It's like, well, they said, well, you had a good idea, but that's not how we're going to do it. Here's a different way how you can do it. So rather than just like a straight no, we're not going to do that, and then that's it. It was more of like, they were willing to kind of step in the ring with you there and actually brainstorm. How are we going to get this done? Because obviously, they're incentivized. They want.
Well, they said no the first time.
Okay.
They basically I didn't have my full 20% down, and I was like, well, this is what I got, and I was willing to like refinance everything and stretch everything out and make it so it was going to be really tight on me, but I'm like, I'm willing to give it a try. And they wanted, at first they told me they wanted 35% down because of the way I was trying to do it.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm like, I can't do that. Like I can barely do 20% down.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, let us see what we can do. And I have an awesome banker, and my bank's awesome too, but you got to be a little resilient in those instances. Like, you got to be willing to say no when you can feel it in your gut that it's wrong. And at that instance, I could have just been like, 35% down. All right, I guess I can't afford it. I could have walked away, but I was like, no, can't do that. Let's make it happen at 20%. I'll make that happen.
Yeah.
I'll find a way to make 20% happen. And then next thing I know, they come back to me, and it was much lower.
Okay.
Much lower. I actually, cash out of pocket was 2% down.
Okay.
So,
hey, how about that?
yeah, I was like, holy crap. Like, what? Like, but they were able to like use some equity, some secondary, some properties, and we were able to make it happen. And they're like, Ryan, we don't want you. We think this is the better route for you, and we think you'll make it work, and we want to see you succeed. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and I was grateful for it. And if I didn't say no, if I wouldn't have just like been resilient when they said the 35% and just be like, no, I can't do that. We got to make it happen another way.
Yep.
It would never have happened.
Well, and that's where there's like, I think like a lot of people could look at that and say like, you got lucky with your bank. It's like, well, no, I didn't get lucky with my bank. They said no, but then I was willing to come back and say, well, I'm not, I'm going to know your no, we're going to figure this out anyway. And, then, they handed you an amazing opportunity, but that amazing opportunity exists because there's strategies that work that way. And they then, because you were able to push and say, no, I still want this to happen, despite the fact that, this one won't work. And yeah, there is luck in that, but it's pursued luck. It's not just literally like, you were just sitting on your couch one day and some banker came up and said, hey, I could do all this stuff. And then magically, here you go.
Yeah, that's what some people would chalk it up to. The ones that need an excuse, they'd be like, well, he was lucky. He got that opportunity. And it's like, yeah, like you said, I pursued that luck. Like I pursued the opportunity and just kept pushing for it. So so that's
All right,
number
so we got
one.
one.
So
Yeah.
is that your number one in just real estate books, or is that number one in all your books?
I'd say that's probably number one in real estate. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, so like overall, number one book that I'd recommend pretty much everyone read. It's hard because I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that one's amazing. But I would probably say The Go-Giver. I think that one, and I think I recommended it to you the other night too.
You did.
Yep, and I am blanking on the name right now on it, like who wrote it, but The Go-Giver it's a pretty short book. It's very engaging. So what I love about it is whenever I'm introducing people into mindset, changing books and everything like that, it's very entertaining, kind of like Rich Dad Poor Dad. Rich Dad Poor Dad is, especially for the first half, is just like an amazing story that any fiction lover would love. You know, it's just engaging. Same with Go-Giver, and the Go-Giver focuses so much on this whole branch of business that is not transactional. It's about giving opportunities, seeking out cool ways that, you know, it can be I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, all kind of things like that, that starts with a value offer first. So it's always, I'm going to do something for you first, and then in exchange, likely, if I keep giving you value, eventually you're going to want to toss some bones my way. And it's just, yeah, like that reciprocity concept. And I've seen that one work so much in real life. Like everyone who's succeeding, if I start giving them value, they invite me along for their ride or whatever. Like there's a whole lot of willingness to collaborate. And that book just overall, yeah, I think that one's crucial for mindset. And it's one of the biggest things that helped me to realize that almost every door is a possibility for you. You just have to knock, but with knocking, like bring a present. I guess would be like with, you know, finishing out the metaphor.
Cool.
Yeah. So
I love that. I'm definitely going to put that on my list because I am very big into that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just, so little of what I do in life is because of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to like impact the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone wants, like people always want a one answer from me. Like they ask me, why do you do the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, it's not that simple. I don't just do it for one reason. Like I have a list of reasons, but one of the reasons along the podcast is to also be able to help people that are in my shoes, like in the past. Like I want to help my younger self. I want to help the people that are like me when I was younger. Maybe the young confused boy, maybe the boy that wants to, you know, start his own business one day and he's coming from ground zero. Maybe someone that wants to get in real estate, or like there's lots of things that I want to show people that they can do. Or maybe even someone that wants to start a podcast.
Yep.
You know, they're listening to this and they can watch me grow and watch the things that I do along the way, and maybe it'll help them because that's a part of a lot of my content too.
Yeah.
You know, I want to impact the world as I go. So, and I try to give back as much as I can. Actually, I probably give back more than I probably should. Like there's sometimes when people come in and ask for a donation, and I really probably shouldn't be donating because I need the money. Because the money needs to be set back aside for maybe a roof or repairs that are going to be needed for the future. Sure, maybe I don't need it right now, but also I don't have, you know, it's not like my business is paid off and the building's brand new. Like repairs are going to happen. And a lot of times I should probably be like, no, I really need to save. And I've had to learn to create a budget.
Well, and I would say though, what you could do is still offer them value of, but I know 3 people who are looking for different, you know, ways to minimize their taxes and they want to do donations and stuff. So here's like, you know, 3 other businesses you should try, or here, I'll call this guy and see if it's a good opportunity. There's ways to still help that person coming without giving them money too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned to do that. I have learned to do that. And I've also learned that maybe I could help them out actually by maybe if it's an auction, instead of just giving them money. Because some places just want money and then they take the money and they go buy something for the auction. Maybe I can offer them something that, like a gift certificate to my gym, or maybe some products, or something like that. That's not just direct cash. Maybe it's something that, I mean, even though it's like a gym membership, it kind of like I need it. It's not like it's just free. Like anyone can come for free, but sometimes it's a little bit easier to get something like that away. Plus, in an auction, people do bid up higher. So if I just give $100 and it just goes in a bank account, it's $100. Or maybe if I put something in that's $100 value, because it's at an auction, somebody will run it up to $250.
Yeah.
So it helps them better that way too.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm big on like sporting, because I'm a gym in the Owensville community. I want to be involved in any sporting event. Like I want to try to be like I would like to be at every basketball game, football game, baseball game. Like I want to be on the banners. I want to be any type of like little league team or anyone that comes to me. I want to be able to help sponsor them.
Yeah.
So and actually it's crazy because I've reached out to the like our what is the I can't think of what it's called for this like the sporting school deal, like the guy that handles it all. You don't know it?
I don't like event coordinator. I don't know. I was homeschooled, so we didn't do that too much. Yeah.
Well, there's like someone in the school that handles it all. Like there's a sports coordinator of some kind. The athletic director. Yeah, the athletic director.
There we go.
That's
there we
what
go.
it is. And I've reached out to this guy, left him a voicemail. I've reached out to people that know him and say, hey, I want to be involved. Like I have money. I want to give it to you guys. Let me get involved with you guys. And they won't get back with me.
That's funny.
I'm like, yeah, like I'm trying to give you guys money. You guys don't want this? It's crazy to me.
No, they probably get paid hourly. Yeah. Just like,
probably.
hey man, it doesn't change how much money I get.
Or a salary. Yeah, it's just on a salary. So they're just like, yeah, it's whatever. We got what we need.
That's funny.
I don't know. I hope they reach out to me one of these days. But also, I only put so much energy in.
Yeah.
Like I reached out to people for podcasts, and I think they'd be great on the podcast. I think people would love them. But yeah, I'm only going to reach out to you so many times before I keep hearing because I hear a lot of excuses whenever it comes to the podcast, and it's always I'm busy with this, and to me I'm like, yep, okay,
Yep. That's like
just
the
an
thing.
excuse.
No one's ever busy. They just have priorities, and in their mind, at least, they're placing you as a very low priority, and everything else comes above that, including a lot of times things just like hanging around watching TV, whatever. Like and I guess everyone has the right to that, but yeah, a lot
It's
of
hard
times
to grow whenever you're just always making excuses.
Yeah. No, I think almost all the time people aren't actually busy. It's just they're not willing to put it as a priority.
Right. I think that I've reached out to some people that are pretty big. I can understand like if you're I mean, it sounds bad, but I don't really care. Like if they're so big that if I reach out to Joe Rogan, he doesn't message me back.
Yeah.
I understand. I get it. Or even if he did message me back and he's like, hey man, I got something going on, I can't make it out. I'm like, okay. You're pretty big. I can understand why maybe coming on my podcast has no benefit to you in your life.
Yep.
But the ones that, there's a lot of them that just, they come up with an excuse. So The Go-Giver, I'm going to get that book.
Yep.
It's definitely on my list now. I think I actually looked it up and screenshot the other day. But I want to put that one on my list because I think that will help me out. I think it really correlates with where I am in my life. I'm a big Gary Vee fan. Gary Vee talks about that kind of stuff, always giving back and like always hitting back with just love instead of hate.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Because I think people start getting into business, they get big heads. I'm trying to change that narrative in business that business owners aren't like that.
I think what it does too is it kind of sets you apart from the cutthroat style of business. And for me, I've like pretty quickly realized, like if I go to a networking event, I can identify the people who have read The Go-Giver, or at least maybe not The Go-Giver specifically, but they ascribe to that kind of like personal philosophy about how they do business. And the people who are there because they know that networking, you can get more cards out and you can get potential clients and blah, blah, blah. When it's a very like just, marketing and center focus kind of thing, it just doesn't, I don't really want to do business with them too much. And so I absolutely love that one.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And I've never read The Go-Giver, but I can definitely pick that off of some people where they're there to meet people. They're there for like, there's some people that are just there for the wrong reasons for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe they haven't realized it yet because I think that one time in my life, I didn't realize that those kind of things were important to me. And I kind of just started learning it along the way. And I started realizing like, oh yeah, that's actually what I like a lot more about it.
Yeah.
For sure. So The Go-Giver, what some more?
Yeah.
Okay, can I ask you about some recommendations that I've read that I'm like, what do you think? So The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You read that one, right?
So we talked about that one. I've read a lot of excerpts from it. I've had like a ton of talks on it and whatnot with people, but I have not read that one yet. That's been one that I feel like I've almost heard it too many times that I've just decided, but
really?
I need to read it.
Because you heard it too many times.
I've heard it referenced so many times of like the actual content where like, like the 6th habit and blah, blah, and like, I feel like I've heard every piece on this book already, but no, I need to read it. But also, it's a thick book.
Yes, it is a thick book.
Yeah.
And it's not like it, well, I mean, it's not tiny, tiny words, but that's kind of a reason I've kind of been like, I don't know. But here's my thing with this book versus like Rich Dad, Poor Dad or How to Win Friends and Influence People or the pumpkin plan in the back. Have you ever heard of that one?
I'm not.
Mike Michaelwitz, check that one out. Mike Michaelwitz he's pretty big dude, but I really love this dude. And I would recommend checking this. This is his second book to the series. I think the first one's A Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. Will you look that one up too, Ariel? I think it's called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur.
Yep. Yeah. That's it.
And it probably says it on the back, doesn't it?
It says right down here at the bottom. But then he's got like Michael Gerber, Guy Kiyosaki, Seth Godin. He's got some pretty awesome names on there.
Cool. Well, that book I read before I was going into business, and it really helped me out. Just taking a step into business and doing things that is just methods or strategies that are good for a business that I didn't even realize. Because you can look at crap on the internet and there's this person's opinion and this person's opinion. It's very hard to find it. I feel like books really lay it out in a good way. So that one was really big to me. But the thing with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that also worries me, it's not just the size of it, but have you read The Millionaire Next Door? Okay, so before I ask you your take on it, I read the first chapter, which means nothing. I haven't read the whole book, so I really can't say much on it. But when I was reading it, I felt like, at least for the beginning part of it, it sounded like it was more of, how do I explain it? More of maybe like I don't know. I don't know if it was like more strategy. It was more like, it seemed like it was more like, don't spend money real tight, be tight with your money. Like from what I gathered, they were saying like, it's just talked about how to be frugal and not have the needs or the wants. Like the people that are the millionaire next door, it's a lot of them are just, they don't spend their money. They don't have the wants and the needs and the greed to go out and buy the new vehicle or the new flooring every year or whatever. And I already know, I don't know. It sounds weird. I'm confused with how to put it out in words, but I just don't know if it's like, I'm not looking for ways to be, I can be tight. I can be super tight. So I don't need them to tell me like I don't need to go out and buy a new truck. I already know that. I don't like greed for me is very low, and it's getting lower and lower as time goes on. Like I was never a super greedy person. I had a little bit of greed, but now it's like, I mean, every day I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I really don't need that. Yeah, I really don't need that. And I don't know. I feel like, I just didn't feel like there was a lot of value, but I should read it just so I can say if the value was there or not.
So Think and Grow Rich, or sorry, not Think and Grow Rich, sorry, Millionaire Next Door. They swap around in my head because they're kind of similar books. But The Millionaire Next Door, from, if I'm remembering right, it's been about 2 years since I've read it, but it pretty much was like a statistical research, almost like a what do you call it, like a thesis or whatever on, what overall do millionaires statistically make, what kind of people make up millionaires. And so it was really, really informative at the time when it came out, but now you hear all the ideologies from it and the statistics from it everywhere, and you're still hearing like it's at this point it's incorrect statistics because they're citing stuff from I don't remember how many years ago, but there's there was a lot of value in it, but I think now you pretty much get all of that same value from hearing Dave Ramsey all growing up, and you'll hear it from like even Rich Dad Poor Dad, I'm sure, mentions multiple parts from it. It's just become like almost
I'm not a Dave Ramsey fan either.
Instead I'm like methodically, for the type of person I am, I'm not either. For the people who are trash with money, I think it's
great.
100%. Like I think probably 70 to 80% of people probably should, to some degree at least, follow Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
But
he has some things I guarantee can help anybody, even me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always tell a lot of my friends that, especially if they're not in debt, like they're doing just fine in life, but they're not swayed one way or the other. They're not making any money, but they're not also losing any money. Like they make money and they pay their basic stuff. They're not greedy.
Yep.
They don't know where to go in life. They have no education on it. They don't know what to do with their money, and they don't even know. They literally have zero knowledge, and they're like, what do I do with this? And there's a lot of people that go to Dave Ramsey because he has a big name. And I'm like, I feel like Dave Ramsey's more how to get out of debt. And then like Robert Kiyosaki's more how to get in debt and use the debt for your benefit. And that's why I tell everyone, I'm like, if you my sister had a lot of college debt. She just struggled with money, and in a way, just of like, because maybe she didn't realize like what to do with the money, and so she needed Dave Ramsey to get her out of debt, to get her out of those bad spending habits. But then whenever you get out of it, I'm like, okay, now you need to get rid of those ideas and start following along with kind of how Robert Kiyosaki thinks, because you're not going to be able to make that money work for you unless you have it in some good investments. And a lot of times it comes with debt.
Yeah.
You gotta spend some money that you have in your bank account, or you're gonna have to get some loans, make some payments on some stuff, but have some money working for you.
Yeah.
That's like my big thing is like, I don't want to read a book because it's a big commitment for me. It sounds so dumb.
It
sounds so dumb. Like I wish I had like whatever you have to be able to sit down and read a book. Like I think
so to be clear, I listen to audiobooks like crazy. So I do read some books, but audiobooks is mainly where it's at. I'm driving a lot. I'm doing random tasks and stuff, but I devour audiobooks. So just being clear, it's not that I just like sit around in a lounge chair all day. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that makes more sense because when the most ingestible time for me when it came to audiobooks, because that's where I got consumed a lot too, was when I was working my 9 to 5. Because I was able to put a headphone in and I worked at least 8 hours a day. So and I worked by myself, so noise hardly ever interrupted me. Headphone in, just consume.
Yeah.
And then whenever I got in my own business, and I hate it, I beat myself up now. I'm like, man, I need to get back to that. I need to get to, but it's hard for me just to sit down because when I was working, I could put it in and I could paint a car, and I just knew how to paint a car so well that I didn't even have to use much thinking.
Yeah. You're able to focus on the book and
Yeah. And then now it's a lot of times I'm not even sitting down for lunch. You know, I eat my meal 5 minutes, or I have a shake for lunch, and I'm keep on moving. I don't take much time to slow down, and that's why now I really enjoy long car rides. Like we went to Kansas City this past weekend for a wedding, loved it because I got to listen to a podcast. I got 3 good hours to listen to the podcast down and back. Anytime I go on a flight, I love the flight because I bring a book. And I'm like, all right, nice and quiet.
Yep.
I can't get up and I can't even get distracted with nothing else. Just sit down and read the book. So I really like, because I've been trying to take some time off lately, and I put this book next to me. Like it's been sitting next to me for 4 days. Well, 3 days. Haven't read a page. Haven't opened it up one time because I keep telling myself I'm gonna read it, and then I watch TV and I just keep watching it, or what? Because I'm trying to. The problem with the book is it gets my brain thinking. And then I like to act on it, and sometimes I don't actually get to like clear my head. I'm at a point in my life right now where I just need a break, just a mental break. So I'm like conflicted because I'm like, I want to do this.
I know, yeah.
Also, like I might just get really into it, and then a week goes by, I finish the book, but I didn't feel like I actually got a break at all. So I'm like conflicted.
Yeah, no, I've had trouble with that. What I usually do is I go for pretty much every day. I go for like an hour walk outside, and during the hour walk is usually when I'll listen to the audiobooks. So, and I like at this point because I've listened to a lot of them. I'm usually always at 2 to 2.5 speed kind of thing, listening through them. So, which also I will say, like with having read like 180 books or so, once you get past like the 30 main topics or whatever of business and mindset and whatnot, it starts repeating a lot of content. So you can start kind of breezing through, like, you know, whenever it gets interesting, slow it down, pay attention a lot more. But then a lot of pieces are just like the introduction 2 chapters almost always are just like a lot of fluff with a couple points. And then they like actually really deep dive into this certain specific key cool component. That's good. And then it goes into like a very kind of more fluffy application and how other people have used it and blah, blah, blah. And then it maybe goes into like FAQs towards the end kind of thing. And so like almost all these business books, follow this structure. So I typically do a moderate tempo at the beginning, and then I slow it down for like the part where it's really describing this. And then kind of for the rest of it, I just start speed running it a bit. Cause it's like, okay.
So you put it on like 1.5 speed or 2.
Yeah, it'll be like 1.5 or so whenever I'm listening to the actual concept being explained for the first time and introduced. But then once it goes into the piece where it's gonna be 5 more chapters of just explaining how different people have used this strategy, ramping up to the 2 to 2.5 speed, just because it's useful when you don't read a lot of books. But if you're reading tons of stuff, you're getting a bajillion little ideas that are always running through your head anyway. And to me, I kind of view, especially when you're kind of eating books like that, I think it's useful to just have a lot of little data pieces that kind of give you almost like something for when you're thinking later, an idea is more likely to pop up. So I don't necessarily always focus it on like this one book is going to change how I do everything. It's more like I'm going to get as many random, conversation pieces, almost like this right now. Like we're having a conversation. There's going to be probably five or six things that you've said throughout the conversation that over the next 12 months I'll potentially think up again. But it's only coming likely because I heard it briefly during our conversation. So I don't sit with a journal and write while I'm listening to my audiobooks. I'm not highlighting and rereading pieces a ton, because for me I'm looking at it more like if I just lived being surrounded by a ton of really smart business people, I wouldn't be going around with a notebook constantly, like, wait, can you say that again? Or whatever. It's like, no, by being immersed in this where every single day I'm hearing smart people talk about business and whatnot, it's affecting the way that I think and everything like that. And so I'm worried less about because also if I studied, I probably would only have read 40 books maybe at this point if I was actually, reading them, paper and, highlighting, taking notes, everything like that. So it'd be a lot less content. And also I think it then becomes like a study time rather than an immersion time, which I think that whole piece of, you're the average of the 5 or 10 people that you spend the most time around. I want to make sure that a lot of my time is being spent around these ideas of people talking higher business and stuff, which is what's so good about podcasts too.
Yeah. That's what I love about podcasts, because I get to invite whoever I want on.
Yeah.
And they're all business owners. And so that was like a big driving factor for my business. Would you say like right now where you're at in your life, the 5 to 10 people that you're spend most of your days with are the people that you want? Like if you had to make a list of the top 5 people that you talk to every day, would you say those top 5 people are benefiting your life in a better way?
Yeah, let me see. I'm going to count them out. Let's see.
Don't say them though.
I know I ain't saying them, but because if I leave someone out, they're going to be mad. But let's see. I'd say probably like 3, maybe 4 of them are. But yeah, I mean, like for instance, like one is my wife. Like she's benefiting my life in a lot of ways. Not necessarily in the strong business sense. Like she's not, just like dropping amazing insights into business. She still helps me brainstorm through and whatnot. But so in different ways, yes. But in terms of the actual like business piece, I have a lot more friends who are either who I'm seeing a lot who are at my same level or lower, like earlier on, which I'm trying to get more and more having people who are well ahead of my journey, who I'm being around more often. And I had that about 2 years ago or so. I had an internship out on Maui. I think I told you a little bit about that. But
yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, no,
we're not gonna let that skim by today.
Okay, yeah, no. So while I was out there was tons of amazing networking and just spending time engrossed around like everyone's a millionaire except for me, and that's amazing. I love that fact that I got to just be the dumbest one in the room or whatever you want to call it. Just I was getting to be the sponge. Still having good conversations and whatnot. I tend to bring like humor, I guess, to the group. So as long as I can play off of them and make it an enjoyable time to have me around. That was super, super nice and beneficial for me.
Yeah,
So,
I
I'd
bet
like
it
to get
was.
that.
I bet it was
Yeah.
huge for you.
Yeah.
So you would say like right now you're not fully there. You're still working. You're still working to where you want to get.
Yep.
And someone like you said, like someone like your wife, might not be helping you grow as far as in business, but help you grow as a person.
Yeah,
Like
all the
I think
time.
that is equally as important. When you read a book that tells you you need or an article or whatever that tells you you should surround yourself with the 5 to 10 people that are where you want to be at in life. I kind of leave a couple spaces open for the people that I want to be like in life too. Like someone that's just really happy, like that's just really enjoying their life. They can be broke, but if they're just extremely happy in life, I look at them too and I'm like, okay, how do you get to be that happy? Like I want to be like that too. 'Cause a big part of my journey is just being happy. So yeah, I can't just put someone in there that's just money hungry, because that's not who I am.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, before we go, I want to talk about branding.
you're good,
and
yeah.
that whole thing. But I want people to know what your business is too.
Yeah.
Because you're a real estate investor. If they haven't figured that out by now, he is a real estate investor. But you just recently started a company, and you do coding. Correct me where I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, so you're good. So I grew up doing a lot of computer programming, and then I started this company, BrightInvestor, on the shirt, and it's a computer software that I developed, but like I used other programmers to develop it. So I know, computer languages. I've built software before and stuff, but with this one, because I wanted it to be, it's a very large software. I wanted to use other people and for me to focus more on the business side of things rather than, spending 8 hours a day coding it kind of thing. But
And what is it? So BrightInvestor, what does it do?
yeah, so BrightInvestor is, it basically solves as best as we can, it solves the problem of location in real estate. When you're trying to figure out specifically where do you want to buy, which locations are the most likely to appreciate the highest, have the most appreciation in rents, lowest crime, like where are the new opportunity areas. So basically what we've done is we've partnered with a ton of different data companies that source all sorts of different data types, and a lot of them are like the most trusted names in the business. So like we have Crimeometer, Rentometer. Those are places that people go typically for their crime data, their rent data. Appreciation data is from like the Census Bureau sales trends data and stuff like that. So it's reputable sites, and we've taken all of that data and put it into one platform, and then we put all of the data in a visual format over top of Google Maps. So you can be looking at a market like, let's say, Austin, Texas, and you're wanting to invest there. You're looking to do long distance real estate investing, but Austin is huge. There's tons of zip codes, tons of neighborhoods. So what we've done is we've taken all that data and allowed you to put like heat maps. We've allowed you to put differing kind of like color maps by zip code, so you can see which zip codes are appreciating at higher rates, which ones have higher rents or are appreciating higher rents. Letting you see different schools where the higher school ratings are, where more crime is happening, where less crime is happening, where crime is getting better. Like is this an upward trend, downward trend? What's happening here? Then we also you can put in your own custom data. So if you've got a ton of property leads through like PropStream, Deal Machine, any of those different softwares where you vet and get amazing properties that you want to reach out to, you can take those, throw them into BrightInvestor, and then view them on top of all this data. So now you can see which ones are in the better appreciating zip codes, which ones are in worse crime areas. Because there'll be certain things like one of my friends, they bought a property 2 years ago, and they thankfully got it in a great location. So everything's good except for specifically in that neighborhood, the next door neighbor gets the police called on them every single week. And so every single week they're having police come up, knock on the door. There's trash everywhere. They're loud. It's just like, are you kidding me? I got in the great neighborhood. And you would know that if you looked at a heat map, because boom, there's this solid red dot right on your neighbor's house of this place has a ton of calls going on here. Yeah. But yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, the rest of the area is good. It's just you got the one crummy house that's right next to the horrible neighbors.
And you'll never know that if someone, because yeah, that's a huge problem. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to invest anywhere except for your area that you live in, like my small community I live in, I know the communities around me. Yeah. But if I want to invest anywhere outside of that, if you're trying to grow in real estate investing, it's hard to just buy up in your area. We talked about it. There's no 100-unit multi-complex in my area. Yeah. So if you want to get into something like that, you're going to have to buy St. Louis, Texas, like Dallas, Texas, or Austin, or some large city, Miami, New York, something like that. A large city where you can buy things. But if you don't know them, like it's a huge gamble, and it's a lot of money to be able to get into it. Yep. So without a tool like this, you could really put yourself in jeopardy very easy. And that's actually a big, even for just residential property. If you're looking around and you see a property pop up, and you're like, is this, because you just don't know. Yeah. Like there's a place in my community that it's like, we call them the fruit streets. Basically, they're not it's just like where it's like a lot of lower end properties. A lot of crime ends up happening over there. A lot of the houses get tore up. It's just a rougher looking area. It's hard to get people to rent them. And houses pop up for a good price all the time. People even renovate them. They make them look good. If you weren't from our community, you would go drive by, you look at it, you're like, this ain't a bad property. Yep. But then all of a sudden, you're having problems all the time. There's, like you said, neighbors the cops call them all the time. You would never know it unless you're from the community. So having a tool like this. Now, was there never nothing like that existed?
So there's, like, for instance, what I talked about is these sources exist, like, Crimeometer, Rentometer, things like that. But you got to go look at Crimeometer, and you got to pay for a subscription, get a sign up, everything like that. And then you got to go get a subscription to Rentometer and pay for that, and then you got to get one. Great Schools is free for like all our school data, but for instance, when you're looking at sales trends isn't a visual data; it's just a data sheet. So you got this data sheet and you got all these zip codes, and you're going, okay, well, it looks like it's going up, now it's going down, now it's going like what's happening here, and that's not very helpful. like it's kind of helpful, but you're not seeing them. You can't stack them, which is really annoying. So now you're having to view one map, then try to remember what you saw over there while you're looking at this map, and then other ones just aren't even visual. So you're gonna have to start making your own maps or something like that. Pen and paper, and it just takes way longer. It's a lot more accounts, a lot more places to have to check. And for investors who especially are, they're either big flippers or they're specifically investing in a certain type of property that meets certain criteria, like a lot of mobile home park investors, they're not investing in a market. They're investing all over the US for any mobile home park that meets this one criteria type, which is very, very specific. But it means that every single time the deal comes up, they have to do a ton of market research around that property to figure out what's going on. And that just takes a long time. But so there's like one other company that we found that does do this data, but I believe that their base starting price is like $2,800 a month.
Wow.
And so it's like high cost compared to with us. We've taken all these different subscriptions. We've bought them in bulk and put them all together, and then made the whole platform itself that helps you to visualize and narrow down. And then ours starts at $50 a month and goes all the way up to the top of $100 a month for unlimited and nationwide access. It's $100 a month, so it brings it down to the more residential investors, smaller companies who aren't buying 10 plus properties every single month. It makes it a whole lot more accessible.
Yeah, $2,000 a month. Nobody on the lower end, like when you're getting started, could afford that.
Yeah,
you have to be making. You had to have that's like you have to have a ton. Mm-hmm. You have to be Grant Cardone, or you have to be someone like big investor, Brandon, somebody that has a ton of them. Like me, there's no way I could afford that.
Yeah,
that'd be literally all my profits just gone at one time, and so it'd be like pointless to even do it. So unless you're very, very bullish, and have a ton of properties that are making money, that $2,000 profit margin doesn't even make sense.
Well, especially because that's just focusing on the market research. That's not focusing on the properties itself. It's just here's the market research. Good luck. So
they don't have a map on theirs like yours that has a map on theirs.
So on the one that I'm talking about, I'm trying to remember what it. I'm thinking it's Yardi Matrix. I'm blanking on the name right now, but yeah. So like they do have visualization, but it's based on the market. So you're looking at the market for that one, but it's $2,800 a month versus if you're starting out in real estate, likely where you're going to want to put most of your marketing is more into the market, most of your money is into the marketing or into the property research itself. Most people don't put money into the market research because they don't know how to do it because it takes a long time. They don't even know where to get it because a lot of companies like Yardi Matrix aren't near as visual. Like you don't see them everywhere like you see PropStream and a lot of those other companies. And so they focus more on the actual individual deal. And they're like, there's a duplex. Okay, cool. It meets my cash on cash return, blah, 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 blah. But then they don't realize that it's not going to appreciate near as well because it specifically has horrible neighbors or it's just in a bad neighborhood specifically. Sure, that city is doing great, but that neighborhood's not. And we even have like opportunity zone stuff. So we have all the build permits. So before you even have seen them break ground, when people have pulled permits to build a new complex in that area. So you can buy up all the stuff before they've even broken ground on the area. So it really allows you to see those opportunity zones before they've appeared.
Cool.
Like path of progress is like one of the biggest things that people look for in real estate. And so we've bought like all the data to be able to see those permits that are happening and then even see that over time where you can kind of see, okay, what movement's happening right now with new development or what's happening with renovations. And
dude, I love it.
Thanks.
I think that's such a great idea.
Thanks.
And I think it'd be one of those things that almost any type of real estate company could use. Because it's probably not really recommended to be probably used like that. Like, what's your target audience?
Target audience would be like our most primary is like real estate companies with 2 to 8 people in them. That's kind of our main focus of who we think is going to get the most value because at 2 to 8, you're probably analyzing anywhere between 2 to 5 markets per month, usually at that point. So you are consistently having to check new little neighborhoods and markets. And also usually when you're a little bit larger of a team like that, you typically are in the syndication game or whatever. So you're also having to prove the market to other people like private money lenders and stuff. Secondary then would be, individual investors, but we're primarily looking at just, if you do, I'd say like in terms of assets under management or like being transacted, if you're doing under 5 to 10 million a year, this is probably a good product fit for you.
Yeah,
if you're doing
absolutely.
above 10 million in terms of actual like money being transacted, then yeah, you may look more into Yardi Matrix at that point. But there's a lot of syndication companies out there that are doing, 10, 20 million, and they, their profit margins are still, maybe 200,000. So it's not like they want to be spending an extra $24,000 to $36,000 just for the market research.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think yours is definitely the way to go. I just didn't want to. I didn't know if like you were actually trying to target real estate companies because like in my head I'm like, yeah, that'd be perfect. Because how many people want to get into a rental property? A lot of people in their life just want to own one rental property. Like that's all they want to own in their life.
Yep.
And so for a real estate company to be able to have that and they can show that kind of data to someone that's coming in,
Yep.
I think it's very helpful. Because I have a problem with real estate companies just because if you don't go to the right person that is involved in real estate investing, they're going to send you houses all the time that they're not even profitable. They're going to send you a house that it costs $150,000 and it's only going to rent for $700. And like, this is going to be a great house. And I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, I'm looking at this house to buy. I'm going to get my first rental property. What do you think? And I'm like, well, can you at least get $1,500? Like, say it's $150,000. I'm like, can you get $1,500 a month out of it? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Like look at all the other houses around it. They're all bringing $700, $800, $900 a month. Like, it's just not going to happen. And so, but there's some real estate agents that will just push that on people. But I do think that and I'm talking small communities. Like I'm from a small community. That's how it is. But the bigger the communities you go to, there's usually somewhere in the real estate company that there is an investor in it, right? That helps people with it.
And by real estate company, just making sure you're talking about like a real estate agency.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you're like.
So whenever I'm talking about like real estate investing companies, I'm talking about not agencies. I'm talking about investors who are buying up properties, turning them into rentals, refinancing, syndicators, different groups like that. Like agents are something that we're looking at, getting on as well, because then now they can give market data, give a resource to, home buyers or new rental buyers. But no, when I was talking about real estate investment companies, I'm talking about like the ones who are actually going out and buying and renovating a lot of properties, like flippers, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes way more sense.
Yeah. No, sorry about that.
I was just thinking that I think it could go so many directions, but I didn't know if like, I don't know. There is the whole problem with like subscription-based things like that is the people that leech off of everyone else. But at the end of the day, in a business, like one real estate company is not going to share with another real estate company, most likely.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it could potentially take business from them. So it's really not that big a deal. But I just don't want to be like, yeah, it'd be great for these people to do it. And you're like, I'm not trying to target them.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, because honestly, even this, just if you're a person wanting to go move to a new city and it's not even investing, you're looking to rent, or something. Well, now you have rental data. You know what the typical, 2-bedroom house is going to rent for in that area of New York, and you know where the crime is. And so like it's valuable for individual people just looking to move to a new area. It's valuable for people looking to buy a home that they want to do well, appreciation wise. But no, our primary focus is, the real estate investing companies. And then after that, would probably be more of either the, I wouldn't call them a hobbyist. That's kind of rude, but like the smaller real estate investors where they're buying one property a year or so.
Early investors.
Yeah. Earlier investors.
The retirement.
And then beyond that probably would be the real estate agents where it's, they're using it to help people understand the market around.
I was just thinking about something, but I lost it.
Oh, you're good.
What the hell was I just going to ask you? Well, damn it. Well, whatever.
It'll come back in about 30 seconds.
No, it'll probably come back once you leave the day. I'll be like, damn, that's what I was going to ask him. So, well, let's talk about Brandon and Maui.
Yeah.
Because how did this come? Okay, so Brandon Turner, he is the owner of not the owner of Bigger Pockets, right?
Yeah.
He is what's his connection in there? Because I always thought he was an owner or co-owner or something. No, he was the guy I always see. Yeah.
Well, and so Joshua Dorkins was the owner of Bigger Pockets initially. He's the founder. I think he started it in 2011, 12, something like that. I could be completely off on that, but I'm pretty sure it was around like 2011 or 12. So he started up, and then I think about like 3 years later, all this is spitballing, but Brandon ended up joining him, helped him write articles, some random stuff like that, because Brandon was getting into real estate. And he ended up producing a podcast then with Joshua Dworkins. So Brandon eventually became the head of, he was like the president of marketing or something like that, was kind of like his, or brand identity or something like that. But basically he kind of led the whole branding of Bigger Pockets, while Joshua led more of like the growth of the company and things like that, hiring people, whatnot. So that is, a lot of people think that Brandon owned Bigger Pockets, which he does own equity and stuff like that in it. But no, he was just he was the primary host of the podcast, especially once Joshua Dworkins stepped away from Bigger Pockets. So now Scott Trench is the CEO of Bigger Pockets, so he's running most everything. And then Brandon stepped away from the podcast now, so he still owns some Bigger Pockets, but he runs a company called, well, it was Open Door Capital, which was a syndication company for mobile home parks. So they renovate, I don't know, like 400 pad mobile home parks. They renovate them, put in new management, all sorts of stuff like that all over the U.S. They've done I think last figure I heard, they're at like $800 million like assets under management. So they're scaling like crazy. It's been only like 3 or 4 years since they started it. And then they just rebranded now to Better Life Capital. And so, Better Life Capital is his new name for it. And he also then started a company called Better Life, which is like mastermind group type stuff. A lot of just like information. He just launched a new podcast called the Better Life Podcast, and it is, bringing people on. It's a little bit more Joe Rogan style, where it's like half business, half mindset, lifestyle. So he's kind of jumped a little bit all over the place. But his primary thing was he's very strongly known as being an educator in the real estate space for helping people get into real estate.
Yeah, because he certainly is. Like you said, he just grew this massive business in such a small time.
Yeah.
It's crazy that he left Bigger Pockets. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you said he still has some connection into it, but he's like you. Is there a podcast for Bigger Pockets anymore? Yeah,
so there's still the Bigger Pockets podcast. It's ran by what was his co-host, now is the primary host, David Green, and I cannot remember the other guy's name. But so that's continuing to go on. There's the rookie, like real estate rookie podcast by Bigger Pockets, and that's like Ashley Karen. Then there's, let's see, I think they still have the Bigger Pockets Money podcast as well, which is like, so they have multiple branches. They have like the Real Estate Invest Her show, which is like a women's featured real estate investing podcast. So they like Bigger Pockets overall they're the largest information source for learning about real estate investing.
Sure. So because that was something I want to make sure anyone that understands like what Bigger Pockets was too.
Yeah.
And it's, if you guys haven't and you guys are interested in real estate, there's a book called The BRRRR Method. Mm-hmm. You said, what was the one you said? I said
investing in real estate with no and low money down. But the BRRRR book that you're talking about, that's like a BRRRR, which is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, and that's by David Green.
Yeah.
That one is amazing. That's one of my favorite books too.
Yeah, that was the one that got me interested in Bigger Pockets. That one's like what got me connected with them and what got me following along. Because at one time in my life, I thought I was going to be a real estate guru. Like that was what, like whenever I was starting my path in life, that was like what I really got into. Mm-hmm. And that was everything for me. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I started to realize that I really enjoyed business, the business side of everything, a lot more than I enjoyed the real estate side of everything. Yep. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to go all in on real estate. Like, I just don't know if that's for me, because there's so much in business that I love. And sure, I could do something like Bigger Pockets or Brandon's doing, but I just don't know if it's for me. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, I do love real estate. I think it's great. But I think there's like the corporation idea I have right now is going into more of like what I'm really passionate about in my life right now. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of want to like dive completely into that. And so I'm glad I kind of got away from it, because as much as I love it, I don't think it could be my main focus forever. Mm-hmm. So how did you get connected? Because you went and lived with Brandon in Maui. Yeah. How did you get connected with Brandon? And because you were just following along to them, right? Mm-hmm. How did you get connected with them?
Yeah, so
because that's not like
it's not like.
I'm sure there's tons of people that would love to do this.
Yeah, no, it's So I started off. Let's see, I think I was 19. I think is when I kind of got into real estate. So I'm 23 now, or 24. Oof, okay. So I'm 24 now, but it was like 19. I started getting into real estate, learning about it, reading books, everything like that. That was during college, and then there's like multiple parts of the story, but I'll kind of go through it, because otherwise this will take this could be like a whole another hour conversation. But
Screw it. Let's do it.
yeah, so I found out about real estate, started reading a bunch through Bigger Pockets, just listening to the podcasts, devouring it. And an opportunity came up where my dad needed to buy he wanted to buy a parking lot, and that parking lot had a quadplex on it that was kind of not completely falling apart from what we could tell from the outside, but was falling apart. So he bought the property. We got it right after it went up on the courthouse steps, and the bank had closed on it because no one had bidded on it. So then we went to them, and we ended up getting the property for $11,000. So super, super cheap, especially for getting a quadplex. So I was ecstatic because I was like, oh my gosh, I've been reading all these books about real estate. So I was like, okay, could I start renovating this, and could I buy the quadplex from you, and you can keep the parking lot connected to it, but could I own the quadplex because there's street parking and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, I mean, if you want, go ahead and, gut it and everything like that. And once you've got it gutted, you can go ahead and buy it from me, and then you can, repair it and whatnot. So I spent probably the next 8 months plus, like every day, just in there swinging sledgehammers, crowbars, everything like that, pulling this quadplex apart. And it was the whole landlord special where you've got, like 2 to 3 sheets worth of drywall, ceiling, like everything. It was like the lath and plaster type stuff where it's just a mess. It's like concrete. I was just in there every day shoveling out this stuff into my trailer and then driving it and dumping it off at the dump. And once I got like down to the very bottom of it, I realized there's way more foundation issues than I thought whatsoever, and that's going to be an extra $20,000, $40,000. And being in college at the time.
So was it on a slab?
It was not. So it was just like it was like all the trusses underneath were rotting away. So
it was like a crawl space.
Yeah, it was like crawl space with a quadplex, which is just kind of surprising anyhow.
Yeah, when you think about it, you think of slab.
Yeah.
Because of how massive the house has to be.
Yeah. No, and it was kind of, like they call them a Frankenstein house, where it's like, okay, originally this was a tiny house, then they added on like 2 wings, then they added another floor, then they added more wings coming out. Like, so it's one of those like ugly, weird, every...
Quit doing that, people.
Yeah, no, it was weird. But yeah, so I took this property, gutted it all out, and then by the time I really had finished gutting, I started pulling up the floorboards because there was some rotting. And then I realized that the rotting kept going, and then I realized that it was like multiple of the trusses. Some of the trusses I literally could put my hand all the way through, and they were just being held up by the floor. Like it was full on molded, rotted out kind of stuff going on.
Termites, you think maybe?
It was probably a mix of termites. There was also a lot of water underneath the house, just trapped there. So I think it was just kind of rotting it away over years and years. I'm not entirely sure, but basically I hit this point where I realized, oh shoot, I've spent the past 8 months breaking my back trying to do this, and I don't think there's any way I have enough money for this. Anyhow, so kind of skipping forward, basically I realized that I was kind of screwed there. I ended up needing to go to get my wisdom teeth removed. So I was waiting there in the office to go in for my surgery, and Brandon posted a story that his brother had gotten in a car accident and totaled their car, and they didn't have the money to get a new car. So he was doing a thing where if you paid $500 to a GoFundMe for him, Brandon would give you a free coaching call. Free coaching call. You're paying $500 for it, basically. And so I was like, oh, shoot, that's like a really good opportunity. I should go ahead and take it. So I went ahead and did it. I paid the $500, and literally, like, as soon as I hit submit, they called me in, and I went, knocked out then with my wisdom teeth. And then, like it was one of those, it's the stories where it lasts 24 hours, and I wasn't on my social media or anything after that. So it was really a unique little 5-minute opportunity that I took advantage of, and then led to everything else that's happened, where it's, we were talking a little bit about luck earlier on. Definitely there's luck involved in that, but also every single story that Brandon posts, I was checking out, I was commenting on everything, liking stuff, reaching out to him. And so that opportunity came, I bought it and then sent him the screenshot and then went in, and then fast forward like 4 months later, I got the call with him because his son ended up being born. So it got pushed back a lot. But so I started talking with him about this quadplex that I had, what I'm trying to do with college, everything. And we had this coaching call, and he gave me like a whole lot of good advice, but then he asked me kind of what I was looking to do post-college, because I had about, I think, 2 semesters left at this point. I was like, well, I don't really have anything. I'm looking to try to keep doing real estate, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, would you be interested in doing an internship? Because I'm looking at maybe bringing someone out here soon, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, well, yeah, I'd love to do something with that. I have experience in renovating, and, I could definitely, be interested in something like that. So he told me, okay, we'll go ahead and put you on the list. And if you want to just reach out to my partner who's doing flipping. So at the time he was flipping houses on Maui as well. But he was like, just reach out to him, let him know, and he'll put you on the list, and we'll talk with you later. You can send in your resume and whatever. So I reached out to the guy and I was like, hey, Brandon told me that there's interest that I might come out to do work. I was curious just in the meantime while I wait, because I know he said it's about 2 months out. Is there any work that I could just start doing for you now? Because he sounded really interested. I'd like to go ahead and get familiar with the systems that you guys are doing. Yeah. So then he was like, well, yeah, I mean, if you want, we have all these mailers going out. We need pictures from Google Maps on them. It's going to take me a long time. Could you do that? So I did that for like 6 hours or whatever, got all that stuff and sent over to him same day. And he was like, oh, that's awesome. Sorry, go ahead. What?
Well, I was just thinking. So did he send you the stuff, or you're not in Maui at this point?
No, I'm not. No, this is just all remote. This was like like the 2 days after that call. Yeah, I was like, okay, what do you need? And
Gotcha.
So I sent him all that stuff, and he was like, oh, dude, sweet. Like I was expecting that to take like a week, or like he wasn't expecting me to like quickly come back with it. So I was like, well, what do you want me to do next? And he's like, well, I have this PDF. It's like I don't know, it's probably like an 8 or 12 page PDF of just lists of properties going into pre-foreclosure. And he was like, I take this list and I have to go look them up on this website, and then I have to get data from them from that website. Then I have to put them into a CSV. Then I have to upload them from the CSV into here. And I have to do every single one by one, because it's one of those weird kind of like, not exactly encrypted PDFs, but it's like one where you can't just like copy and paste. Like it doesn't let you copy and paste, which is so stupid. Mm-hmm. But so I was like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and take a look, and I'll start, just adding those in and taking all that data. But I grew up doing software. So I went ahead and I decided to build a software instead, because he said he gets these every single month. And so I built a software that basically opens up the code of the PDF, and it grabs all the data from the back end, throws it into a CSV, has it all formatted to where now within 30 seconds max, you load the PDF in the software, you click convert, and boom, now you've got a CSV instead, and you can upload it. But then you needed the data still from that website. So I was like, okay, let me see if I can do something else. So I created a basic web scraper type bot that just goes through the CSV, grabs each piece, grabs the data that he needed on it, like it's when was it last sold, who owns it, what price was it sold for, blah blah blah, and just gets all that data, puts it all in the CSV as well. And so I made it a one-click shop where you just drop the normal PDF he gets every month, and now what he said typically took him like 8+ hours of work is now a 30-second task, and boom, he has everything he needs.
So you did that for him for free.
Yeah, so I did
that all for free.
Yeah, it was all for free, and that was all within maybe 2 days of him giving me that list. I stayed up. I think it was like 4:30, 5 a.m. or whatever that I finished the program.
Were you grinding it because you thought it could be an opportunity?
Yeah, 100%.
Help you out with an opportunity. Cool.
Yep. No, to me, it's always been that thing, kind of the go-giver mindset, which I hadn't read at that point, but it was this piece of, if I can blow someone's socks off, they're going to be way more likely to want to do stuff with me. They're going to want to work with me, and that was definitely the case. So I sent that program off to him. I sent it off to Brandon too, just like a video recording, like, hey, just wanted you to know I got this, this solved for not just now, but forever. It's like there's a system built. And so then right there, the guy was like, okay, yep, you're coming out. So he told Brandon, yeah, get this guy out here. He's already, he's already.
I bet they never, ever expected that. Like when they were thinking about it, I guarantee they were just, I bet they could never fathom that somebody was going to build them a software for that.
Yeah, no, I think it was one of those kind of like blow their socks off moments.
Yeah, I would say it did.
Yeah, no, and it worked. So literally they just like right after that texted me like, okay, yep, you're coming out. Can you come out, this month, blah, blah, blah. We'll pay for your ticket. Here's the terms, blah, blah. So it was awesome. So I got to then go out to Maui to help him with flipping. And I was out there. This was during COVID, like 2020. And for 8 months, then I stayed out there with him, helped him out with flipping. He ended up getting out of that. So then I helped him out with the podcast, setting it all up, getting the guests onboarded and stuff. And then helped him host some events out there for real estate investors. He has like this Maui mastermind that he does where he brings like 10 to 20 really highly influential people all together for a party for 3 days or whatever. So some really cool opportunities. And then also just like I was his I would do landscaping. I'd babysit his kids. So I got to just spend a ton of time with him, going out to dinners. Like I lived in he had like a attached, they call it an ohana, but like attached unit to his property. And so I lived there for about a month. And then, like lived in a rental nearby then after that. So it was a ton of learning. I got to just talk real estate like crazy, talk business. And then also he's Christian. So we got to talk a lot about integrating faith and your religion into, especially when you have wealth like that, how do you integrate that well? Kind of what we were talking about earlier with you're wanting to support the community, you're wanting to give money back to people. But yeah, so that's kind of how that opportunity came about, and then that opportunity has just led to tons of opportunities after that because of all the networking that I got to do while I was down there.
Yeah, like has it helped you with your business too? I could imagine like being able to reach out to him and having a connection there.
Yeah.
Like when you were starting this business, did you contact him and say, like, did you bounce it off of him at all? Do you still have a connection with him? Like, can you text him?
Yeah.
You have that close of a connection with him?
Yeah, no, it's so while I was out on Maui and I was working for him, he was wanting to buy a property for his newborn son. He tries to do like a thing where he'll buy a quadplex or whatever, and then by the time they're 18, it's paid off by the rate that he was paying it. And so then they'll have a paid off quadplex that they can use as rental income, and they could sell it and go to college, or they can whatever. But so kind of cool idea. So he was wanting to invest, but he didn't want it to be on Maui. So he was like, hey, I don't know, where I want to invest, but I want it to be, at least a triplex, if not a quadplex. But can you do some market research? And so I was like, well, okay, I can do some market research. So that's where this, idea starts to breed. Is about 30 hours later, I'm going, screw this. Like, this is, this
terrible.
This is
so
horrible. Like,
work.
I'm reading so many articles, but I don't know, you're telling me that Boise, Idaho is a cool place, but I don't, unless I do a deep dive study, I don't know if I should believe you. What part of Boise, Idaho is such, so great? Is it just the appreciation? Is it just a spike right now, or has it always done well? Like, and so I realized there was a ton I didn't know about market research. But what I ended up doing, because he gave me a couple metrics that he wanted to focus on, one of them being rent to price ratio. So just, what's the rent and what is the typical purchase price? So what I did was I got a bunch of data from Zillow. Zillow offers their data where you can just download huge data sheets. And I built another software. And this one basically just took a map of the United States. And then for every single zip code, I had a data point of their average rent and then their average sale price or whatever for single family homes. And then I just put that as a rent to price ratio, and I put a ton of little dots that created then a whole heat map of the US. So now with the whole US, I could see a heat map where are the higher and lower rent to price areas. Very much like you'd expect, Midwest is going to have way higher rent to price ratios, kind of down in the Tennessee area, whatnot. But so I was able to kind of really narrow down some of the primary spots where, okay, these cities seem to be some of the best ones for rent to price. Now let's dive into a bit of appreciation. So then I changed the whole program, put in some other stuff. So this started already building BrightInvestor, where I realized, oh, this is useful. I can see what's
At this
going
point,
on.
you're just building it just to be more beneficial for yourself and to help Brandon out with what
Yep.
he was trying to do with his
Yeah,
life.
very, very. I mean, it's still complex, but it was not near the platform that BrightInvestor is. This one basically was just a heat map of whatever data type I program into it.
So, like, were you even thinking at a time in your life that you were going to own a business? Like, was there
Yeah.
or were you just thinking real estate the whole time?
I was pretty much thinking real estate because I'd seen enough people become millionaires through just renovating real estate and keeping it, doing the burr method, everything like that. That real estate's pretty much what I was figuring I would do. But growing up, like I got into coding when I was 10 years old, and I fell in love with it. It was a huge hobby of mine. I'd like program video games all day long and whatever. So
Cool, man.
it was like
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was a great life skill. And then I got my degree in business, and I had a minor in computer programming because I just wanted to have that piece in there with the degree. But yeah, it's really cool to see now how it's like come full circle that now I'm doing software and I'm doing real estate and I'm doing business. So like all three of those pieces that I'm passionate about are all in one business.
And that's what's very important too.
Yeah.
right? That you're able to combine everything that you're passionate about into one thing. Mm-hmm. Because it's just cool because you were like reading books on business and you're like, I wasn't even sure if I was going to do business. You went to school for business, but you were just saying you were thinking you were going to go real estate the whole time. Even coming out of school, you were thinking you were going to go into real estate.
Yeah.
And somehow you keep getting pulled back to the business. Like whether you like it or not, it was like damn near destined. You'd end up in a business.
Which with the real estate, I was planning to run it like a business. Like I wanted it to be a real estate investing company.
True.
So I still was growing that for a reason, but it was definitely not going to be the style of business that I'm in now, where it's like BrightInvestor's already grown to 10 people. So we've got multiple developers. We've got a VA who's doing customer service and marketing stuff. We have a marketing manager. We've got a guy who edits all our podcasts and reels and stuff like that. So it's like we've built out the team a lot, and it's very different than what I would have been building if I was just doing a flipping business. I'd maybe have one other person helping me right now at this point.
How big is when did you start the website?
So BrightInvestor, we launched it just 3 weeks ago. I think it's pretty
Super
much
super green.
Yeah. So it's very, very new. We've been in development for over a year and a half at this point now. So the software itself has been in development for a long time. And then, before that, whatever, like a year and a half, 2 years before that, then I was building out this, very basic version of it, for Brandon.
So have you accumulated clients yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we already have, we have paying customers. We've got a lot of interest. We have like a free tier as well, where you can view some of the basic information like school data, population growth, and like jobs or businesses in the area and stuff. So we let you kind of play around with it. You can see some of the basic data, and then you get into more stuff. The more tiers that you buy from there.
Yeah. Is there a way you could probably get like Brandon to just give you a shout out on?
Yeah.
one
No.
of those things?
I think for sure, and we've got multiple people too who have been giving us shout outs and whatnot. So it's one of those things we want to make sure that the platform itself is ready for high traffic. Because I helped Brandon with, I think it was 2 different product launches that he did during that. There's a guy named Matt Buck who was my housemate out there, and he did a lot of marketing stuff. And so I kind of helped Matt Buck with those product launches, and he'd have tons of signups every single time that he mentioned something. So we want to make sure that if he does do, a shout out, that we're prepped for it, that our servers can handle it, everything like that. Because we don't want people to all come over and then go, oh, this is trash. I can't even get on.
Right. And it's like as an e-commerce wbusiness, right? Would you say it's what's an e-commerce?
I don't even know the
considered
direct term. Anytime I hear e-commerce, I think of like drop shipping or something like that.
Yeah.
So this is just called like a SaaS company. So like a software as a service type. Yeah.
Okay. So, but it's all online.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no like physical product that you can give
Nope.
somebody. There's no storefront, nothing like that.
Nope.
So when you're selling this software subscription, like how do you get it out there? Like how do you, like from the get go with that, like how do you get it out there? Like how do you get it to the masses of the people? That's like in my head with my product that I'm starting to think of. It's like, what am I going to do when I go to launch it? Like how'd you guys do it? How are you guys doing it?
So we did a lot of podcasts leading up to launch. So we talked about, what was coming. We did a big affiliate push too. So we've got like about 20 affiliates now at this point as well who are marketing the platform. So we give them like a commission of the monthly revenue. We've tried to really, like the affiliate program especially, we've tried to be like uber generous with, because we know for real estate investors especially, the biggest number they care about is cash flow. So it's like if we can give them consistent monthly cash flow rather than just like a one-time commission check, that's a lot bigger. So we've done a whole like we have kind of like a walking up tiers kind of system that, the more people you bring, the higher we give you commission on all of the people you've brought. And so if you bring one person and they're paying $100 a month, you're getting commission on them every single month that they stay with the platform. So we've built that out, and that's helped a lot. We're doing, social media marketing, having people share posts, whatnot. We've got the website. We've got some SEO kind of optimized on that as well. We've done demos. We've done direct outreach to companies. So like mastermind groups, things like that teach people how to invest in real estate. We've got some partnerships already lined up with that, where they're, when they're teaching people about how to invest in real estate and they're telling them, okay, you have to do market research. Here's a great tool for that, because right now there's really nothing else beyond just doing a ton of, random sporadic Google searching and whatnot.
Yeah. Because that's like my biggest thing is like, how do I even get this thing going?
Yeah.
So like with the affiliate marketing, do your affiliates have a link? Like the people that are advertising, do they have a link that they can put, like maybe if it's on a YouTube video, they can put a link in it?
Yep.
And
They have like
you can see all that.
So yeah, they have that, and then they also have a discount code. And if either of those two are used, then it attributes it to them. And that link also, it puts a cookie on the person's computer for the next 45 days. So even if the person goes to it and there's like, I don't know, and then a month later they sign up by going to the website directly themselves, it still will track it for them. So we've tried to really make it like as much as possible. We're guaranteeing that, this person's coming from, that if we get a customer, it's being attributed to you.
How cool, man.
So, yeah.
It helps that you have some software, coding, education, just because when it comes to like the subscription-based service that's all based online, you kind of know how websites work. You kind of know how like the coding and the things work. Now you said a lot of it isn't even you said you kind of worked with a lot of people.
Yep.
Like you didn't do it all yourself, which I think is very important. But at least you can, like, if you have like maybe like questions or maybe you have ideas or something, you can kind of throw it out there, because it's someone that doesn't have any education on it, like myself, I wouldn't even know what's possible or even know because I might not even know it's possible, so I might not even know how to ask for it.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even know that be like, oh, this needs to be added into this, or can we do this? I just wouldn't even know it's available to
Yeah.
me. It's just not like to me in my mind, it's just not even there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge benefit for you in life. Like it's so cool that you got into it so young and like just found a way to like plug and play it with you.
Thanks.
So
No, it's been awesome.
Yeah, 3 weeks in, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Very early on.
And I have also, because I know we kind of like transitioned into this conversation, but so I have a co-founder with it as well. So I'm more of like I understand real estate and programming and, like software side. He's 23, up in St. Louis, and he works for the Department of Defense doing data analysis. So he all day long is building maps and putting data in. So him and I had connected shortly after Brandon and I finished my internship out there.
How'd that connection come about?
That one was, again, a just networking type thing. So it was Facebook. Whenever I finished out with Brandon, I posted to a Facebook group that was for, I'm trying to remember, it might have been the Bigger Pockets Facebook group. It might have been a different one, but I posted basically saying, hey, I just finished, this internship with Brandon. I'm looking to get into, at the time, I was looking to get into large multifamily investing. So I was looking to try to get like a 60 unit plus. That was the goal. It was like, try to not start off with like the 10 units and stuff. Try to just like start straight on with that. It's like, does anyone have any experience and would they be willing to have a conversation with me? So this guy, Devatha Callahan, he's the co-founder. He reached out and he was like, hey, yeah, I'm doing multifamily investing. Let's grab a time to talk. So he's part of a company called, I can't even remember the name right now. But so he's part of a syndication company where they're, using money and they are investing in large, like 70 unit type stuff down in Waco, Texas, whatnot. And so him and I had conversations, and then he started telling me, he's like, hey, I have this cool idea that I've been, kind of brainstorming in my head. And I created some mock-ups of it while I was at work, like with this platform that I use to make data maps. And so he showed me a version of it. And he's like, I was looking to maybe start selling people where they can contract me as a service and I'll do data research for them and give them maps. And I was like, oh, that's funny, because I actually had been working on something like that too, and showed him, the platform I'd worked for Brandon. And very quickly from that, we were like, okay, we should see if we can do something with this. And that's pretty much where, I think it was maybe the second conversation we had together. We decided, okay, let's go ahead and start doing some research into this seriously. Because also, like, when I was out with Brandon had specifically told me when he saw the program I'd built and that I had a software background, he was like, you need to look at, you need to see if you can build this out as an actual thing, because the data market research, in a simplified format is something that is specifically missing in real estate right now. There's not someone doing that well right now. So, yeah, so that was, like, I already had inspiration and, a strong push from Brandon where I was like, well, he has a good tap on what's available as resources in real estate, probably better than about anyone.
Yeah, sure.
And then, then having Donato, I was like, okay, yeah, this is too many things lined up. Yeah, we got to go ahead and do it.
How long do you wait before you're like, we got to pull the trigger? It doesn't sound like you waited at all.
Almost not at all. I'm very quick to just act, and then if something fails, then I go, okay, cool, whatever, move on to the next thing.
Just rip the Band-Aid. Let's figure it out along the way.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of like, okay, let's fail fast. So if it's not going to work, I want to know that, in 2 months rather than in, 8 months from now, of just like light talk brainstorming.
Did you learn a lot of that from the books? Read along the way?
The books. I'd say also I'm kind of a like jump and build the parachute on the way down kind of personality anyway. Sure. So I typically don't hesitate a whole lot. So kind of like with, you mentioned that you run a podcast, and I was like, hey, can I be on the podcast? Because I'm like, if you say no, cool, at least I know, and I'm not thinking about it for the next, 4 months. And if I see you at more events and whatever, I'm not like I'm just like, well, I can go ahead and ask. And if he says yes, then I can go ahead and see if we can just get it scheduled. And, you said yeah. And then we're like, all right, cool, let's do it this week. Yeah. So it's like, I try to just get things
I love people like you too, man. I love that because I just love those kind of people. I think more people should be like that. So that's just an awesome trait that you have.
Thank you. No, it's definitely, no, you're good. I like that piece. Like I like, there are certain ways where it's hurt me, like with the, quadplex. It's like, if I would have known a little bit more, I probably wouldn't have invested 8 months into renovating this thing and then realizing that, I don't know enough about analyzing a property. Because I could have figured out that there was a lot of structure damage if I had actually taken time to pause and, think. But overall, I've found that it's been more valuable to have that.
But you also live and learn that way, right? Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you have to learn the hard way, and then that's how it comes. Dude, I do that kind of stuff too. And as long as you don't let that kind of stuff hold you back, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you cannot eliminate every kind of thing that's ever going to mess up in your life.
Yeah.
Like you're better off just to jump into it and figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
I think I don't know how long we're in this. You want to wrap it up? I think,
Yeah, sure.
Ariel, how long have we been in this?
Okay.
Or unless you want to talk some more about BrightInvestor? I didn't realize it was 3 weeks in, man.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Anything that we missed, I want to make sure we get it out there before we wrap it up. But also just don't want it to be
I'm trying to think. I mean,
insane long.
overall, no, I mean, like we could always do another one of these later on too, but like in terms of the actual running the business side and like, marketing, doing research on business, like there's that whole other side. So, I love talking about mindset, love talking about real estate, but there also is now then the whole, okay, what is it like in that early stage of trying to launch a business? And, I think there could be a lot of good conversation because you've started your gym and everything like that. And then you're looking at this new corporation kind of idea that you're going into. So I think it could definitely be a good conversation to continue, but that also could be another hour and a half of.
Yeah, no, I love the idea of that because, I haven't started yet. And when I say a corporation, I think of this as what I'm doing now, this product I'm getting ready to make, is something that could pull me in the direction of a corporation. It might, a corporation is literally just how it's filed, right?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, BrightInvestor is a corporation, like, it's a C Corp. I'm not sure. I mean, it's ran a little bit different than a small business, but a lot of it, I think, is kind of like you and I were talking about the 4 quadrants or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's more about how directly involved are you in this, and
Yeah, so a lot of times when I say corporation, I'm looking more to get into the B quadrant, big business. I want to have 500 plus employees. I just want to have a bigger business, and so I say corporation a lot. But that's where that's what I'm trying to get to. And at first, I'm still gonna be in the S quadrant when I start making this product, and I'm trying to get out to the world and until it starts to grow. But I think it might not even only be a stepping stone to get me to the big business. It might not even be the idea that gets me there. It might just be another stepping stone along the way. But I think it's where I need to go. And I love the fact that you're so early on for my own benefit, just selfishly, because I can't wait to see. I guarantee I'm going to be reaching out to you and just be like, hey, man, I know you just started your product. What'd you do to get it started? Because that's like a lot of my fears right now is make sure I step forward with the right foot. Yeah. Make sure I'm starting in the right direction, because this is going to be a product that I want to try to sell to the world and not just to my community. It's a little different. Like whenever I start my gym, it's different. Like I can take a video off my phone of myself, or I can take a picture off my phone and post it. And it doesn't have to be super high quality. It's more about just getting the information out there to the community. And, maybe if I have a new product, or maybe I'm updating something in the gym, or I'm doing something, it's more about the information, getting it out to them. But then whenever it comes to a product to the world, I feel like the quality has to be there. Yeah. Like I
that was a big thing for us. We did a ton on quality management because our programmers are great.
How do you do that though?
So this is one other valuable piece that I happened to have gotten was my dad. So he runs like a coach training school. So he runs a company called Professional Christian Coaching Institute, and it just trains a ton of people. And he ran a podcast, and I would do all the thumbnails for him. And he hired me when I was 13, I think is when it was. So I started doing graphic design at 13 every single week, and then he'd have me do advertisements, then mailers, then ads on Facebook, then billboard, like random, all sorts of different mediums. And so then I ended up doing logo development, all sorts of stuff. So I got really into graphic design, and I've done that ever since. Ever since I was 13. So I had software, and then I also had the visual side of being able to do, like icon development, user interface development. So I've thankfully with the website stuff, I've built a lot of websites before I could design all of the graphics. So I was able to kind of take that additional skill that, again, like it was all these random pieces, and it's all pulled in really, really nicely. But yeah, so I was able to develop the website, and then with the actual software itself, building out all the little icons, pins, which really helped because also I'd been developing video games a lot of my childhood, and so or like young teens and stuff like that. So I had already gotten into the idea of building tons of little icon individual pieces that all interact and animate and whatever. So yeah, it's been a funny meshing of so many different pieces.
It really has been, but it seems like you definitely somehow found a way to, and I would say it's through education based, but learned that hey, this is something that I might need, or maybe just been naturally pulled to some things that you're actually really going to need to benefit your future.
Yeah,
Because when you were doing the graphic design stuff, did you realize that's what you were going to be doing?
No, it was just like a cool way to make some extra money. You know, it's like, okay, cool, I can design some billboards or random stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just interesting how like you just naturally pulled to it, and then how it really came to just help you out in the future of your life. Now, do you say you have a podcast too?
No, so I've been on podcasts. My dad has a podcast. We have a guy who edits other podcasts into reels is what I meant by that. So yeah, he'll like take certain podcasts, edit them down into short form content. We've done a couple. So like we built out, I guess it was about 3 weeks ago, we built out a studio as well. So we have like, you know, the mics and lights and, you know, cool backdrop and whatever. So we've been working on kind of building out a space for that, but more so for when we're on other people's podcasts. Cause that's one more thing that's awesome, but I don't quite right now have the priority time for building out a podcast yet.
Because there's a lot of podcasts I don't like. Personally, I like this interpersonal connection. Mm-hmm. Like I want to meet someone in person. I want to be able to look into their eyes when I'm talking to them.
Yep.
I've done one other podcast where, you know, there's a webcam and I was sitting there and I was talking to them. I didn't like it because it kept dropping frames and stuff on me. I didn't have good enough internet. Yep. And I just feel like that interpersonal connection was missing. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you're saying when you're building a backdrop and the mics and everything like
for
that.
For the Zoom type stuff, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So is that how your dad's is set up?
Yeah, that's how his is set up as well. So he does all of his through Zoom. Yeah.
It works out.
Yeah,
there's a ton of podcasts.
And that's the issue too. It's like until you have enough money to be flying all over the place. Like, you know, this drive out here was good, but it was an hour drive out here. And if I want to go to like St. Louis, it's an hour and a half, hour 45. And so a lot of the people who are actually doing the podcasts in the spheres, especially like real estate focus, it's, you know, they're inaccessible unless I use Zoom or something.
Yeah. Yeah, because the only other way would be like if, say, I wanted to get someone like Brandon on. Mm-hmm. He's in Maui.
Yeah.
I would have to fly him out, put him in a place to stay. It's a whole ordeal. Plus, try to find time for that.
Yep.
You know, it's not easy for someone to find. It'd be a 2-3 day event.
At least 3 days. I mean, it's like 14 hours to fly out to Maui. So it's
it'd be a huge thing. It'd be hard to try to find that time.
Yeah.
I hope I can get big enough one day where I can start doing that.
That'd be awesome.
I would like to have my own. Like my own building and have like a whole ordeal, and I could just fly someone out and.
No, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's part of the dream.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, something Brandon's been doing too, because he just launched this Better Life podcast 2 weeks ago, something like that. Is he's been flying out all over the place, recording 4 podcasts, I think, or so, then going to a new place. But he asks around, looks around, tries to find like an awesome Airbnb that's just epic looking. They bring a bunch of props in, tables, mics, everything. Like they set up individual studios for a week or whatever, and then they go to the next. It's been kind of neat to see, and that would be. I love the idea of like building eventually one big building for it, which he has also like at his house. But then also the idea of like doing like travel podcasts could be such a cool.
Yeah, because that's just cool for your life too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like the idea of vlogging. Uh-huh. I just love YouTube.
Yeah,
I love making content. It's so fun to me. I hope I get to continue to do it, and I hope I get to grow with my businesses. I hope I get to keep growing my content with it. Like I hope it's something that I never get too involved with my business that I don't have time to make content, because it's something that I really enjoy. Like for me, it's something that I really love to do. Like this is what brings me happiness every day. But yeah, Logan Paul's been doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. He does the exact same thing. Because he's going to Puerto Rico for boxing, and they're always in Miami. I don't even know where the dude lives. I think he lives in Puerto Rico now. But I see
probably with like taxes, I think there's some nice advantages there. So.
Definitely, I definitely think there. I think it's like only 10%.
I think there's no income tax or something. I could be wrong. I'll need to look that up later. But yeah,
there's something to it for sure.
Yeah,
because like I know a lot of people from California moved out there. There's a dude. That's what really got me paying attention to it. I came on Joe Rogan's podcast. I can't remember his name now. I'd like to go back and re-listen to that one day. Me and Ariel just big in the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
I love the journey. That's like what inspires me a lot. Mm-hmm. So I love like when Joe Rogan brings like an entrepreneur on or somebody like that just has a really cool story.
Yeah.
That I get to listen to, because that's like it pumps me up. It gives me energy. It pushes me along the way. But yeah, I think it's cool because you would get the opportunity to travel and see the world, and he just like you can tell it's just a backdrop like in his podcast now, because he had his studio in L.A. and then he moved out, and then now he just has like it looks like his old studio, but you can tell it's just like this big sheet in the background, and it works out good.
Yeah,
they're always like they just rent out something. I think they like try to find out maybe like an old office space or something, and they just rent it out for the time being. And or like I know on one of his podcasts, I don't listen to a lot of them, just because there's guys on that I don't know. It's just not really that interesting to me.
Yeah.
There's some people that he has on that are super interesting.
Yeah.
Some guys that maybe just blown up on YouTube that are really successful, and some of them I'm just like, these guys are they're just not me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's told me like, or he's talked about it on there where he's like, I found this guy, they let me rent it out. It's a really cool setup, everything like that. And so, yeah, you could do all kinds of stuff, not just Airbnbs, but you could probably just reach out to an office space that's been sitting empty for a while and be like, hey, can I give you a month's rent? If it's, maybe $1,000, and you got to be on the level
Yeah.
to afford it. But I think something like that where you're just like, I'll give you a month's rent. Just let me use it for a couple of days to fly my guests out. We'll set up a makeshift podcast in there and just roll with it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool.
That's I think one of my dreams eventually is, do you watch like Dude Perfect much at all?
Somewhat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like their whole studio, whatever the heck it is that they work and live at, that to me looks like the overall best place ever. Have like a massive basketball court and you have like all the offices and whatever like that. To me, something like that where it's just like an epic. Here's where you work and you can go play. There's all sorts of cool stuff. There was a guy a little bit ago that I listened to a podcast on, and he was doing wholesaling, and with wholesaling, there's tons and tons and tons of cold calling involved. And so he turned it where he has like this massive video gaming room, and they do cold calling while they're all playing FIFA. And the thing is, like, if they actually get one that's going really good, then okay, cool, they'll pause and they'll go through. But a lot of cold calling, like hours of it, you're just doing the same script and you've got it memorized and you've been working on it for years, even at that point. And so he was like, he found a way to make it where they could play video games together, they can do cool things together, but then they're cold calling at the same time. And then if they need to, they can step out of the room or whatever.
Who is that?
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember
what podcast it was on.
It was on the Bigger Pockets business podcast, I believe, and it was talking. Man, I'm trying to think if that was it. I'm pretty sure it was Bigger Pockets business, and it was talking about just overall like gamifying your work. So figuring out ways to make it competitive, fun, more engaging, where you actually kind of care. And he talked a ton about the environment where they put like a lot of cool lights. There's like rustic barrels. They have huge full drink fridge all the time. Like a lot of things to make them excited to come into work. Yeah. He said with that, then it's made a lot of the guys will work overtime on their own accord all the time because they just want to be hanging out there. They don't want to go home and whatever. They have friends there and stuff. Yeah, it's something I'm trying to work on incorporating. I
totally agree. Totally think about stuff like that. I think it'd be cool to have a building that has like you said, a basketball court in it. A gaming area would be cool. I never even really thought about it, but I definitely want a gym in it, like a private gym where I could come in and work out every day in privacy by myself. But I also think it'd be cool to have like an outside area, maybe with like 4-wheelers and dirt bikes and side-by-sides.
That'd be awesome.
When people come to the podcast, it's a whole experience. Yeah. Like, and you could do business in it, but you can also like come and just hang out. And it's
like a 3-day event kind of thing, almost of just hanging out. Yeah. No, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Or, and even maybe have like a guest house on the property. So you bring the people in and they have a place to stay. So you don't have to always pay for like an Airbnb or something like that. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to be able to do something like that, especially if you could incorporate your business with it too. Yeah. If the podcast is big enough, but if I had a business that maybe the one side of it was I don't know, it's just so weird. You have to find out, I guess, just find out a way to make it all work.
Yeah. It's like Dreamcast and Vision, everything like that. I love talking about it because it's like, okay, that's what I want. Obviously I'm right now not there, but no, there's
cool. People doing it for sure. I mean, obviously Joe Rogan's doing it.
Yeah.
But I know that, have you ever seen Ridiculousness? On
no
not is that what Ariel is that the guys we watch that drop stuff off of
where they drop it off of
How Ridiculousness is that MTV show.
Okay.
How Ridiculous. Yeah, they're Australians.
Is that the ones who like they'll drop it off of a dam or whatever?
Yeah,
like
those guys.
Okay, yeah.
But they basically have a building just like that too, where they can do all kinds of crazy stuff in it, and it's just those three in this big room, but they have a basketball court and stuff in there.
That's so fun.
Yeah, I thought it would be cool. Or like Rob Dyrdek has the Fantasy Factory. Have you seen that?
No, I don't watch a ton of other content. Like I pretty much focus it just on real estate if I'm doing podcast, and then it's
no, this isn't a podcast.
Oh, this is just like
guy,
YouTube channel or something.
He was a skateboarder. And then he started Robbing Big on MTV.
Okay,
which is just like a reality TV show of him and this bodyguard that followed him around while he was skateboarding.
Okay.
And then he started making a bunch of money there. So then he started the Fantasy Factory,
Okay.
which was, he's a skateboarder, so he built a skate park in it.
Okay.
And then he put like a big foam pit in it and a basketball court in
Sweet.
it. And he had an office up top. And it was just like a really, because he always just did crazy new things all the
Yeah.
time. And then he's the guy that went and started Ridiculousness on MTV. So that's,
Okay,
I think
gotcha.
that's part of it that was connected. But
That's cool.
You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Thank you so much for coming out, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you guys are listening right now and you guys need some help or you're going to get into investing later in your life, in real estate investing, go check out BrightInvestor. It's BrightInvestor.com.
Yep.
Go check out BrightInvestor.com. You said the lowest package is $50, and there's a
free version as well. Yeah.
so you don't even have to pay for it. See if you guys like it. To me personally, I think if you're going to be fully engulfed in real estate investing, $50 a month is nothing to give away to be able to have this, so you can always find the new tools. Because finding the property is probably a big part of the battle. Finding the right property is a huge part of the battle.
Yep.
If you buy a property that's in the wrong area, like you said, if you have the one that has the neighbors that are always getting called on, you buy that and you're going to have problems with it all the time. So it's worth you guys $50 up front. You could probably even put $50 application fee on your rental property that you get that would probably pay for it. So just think about it, you guys. You on all social media pages too?
Yeah. So my primary is at Drew McCluskey. So that's just at Drew_McCluskey for Instagram. Then Drew McCluskey on Facebook. I think it's that's pretty much the main two that I'm on. Cool. And then at BrightInvestor Official on Instagram as well. So
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming out, man.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me.
And we'll see you guys later. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Peace.